So the Tappa phase is a phaser that has tap tempo, which the name implies. Uh, Very few phasers have tap tempo. Even after I released the Tappa phase, oh, here it is. Even after I released the Tappa phase, very few people have done tap tempo phasers. The cool thing about tap tempoing is you can get it to roll with the contours of what you're trying to play, and doing the divide where you can do a 2 times or 4 times, where it can actually phase over measures, but consistently, so that when you get to the beginning of each measure, your waveform is rolling back around to where it was, so you can get that feeling where it's continual throughout, whereas most phasers are just kind of random where they roll back. And so when that next measure comes up, you might be in a different spot on the waveform. 24 waveforms, yep, it's the same waveforms as the Tappa Whirl. There's the feedback where you can run it as a vibe or as a phase, and in the phase mode you have a feedback where you can turn to positive or negative feedback, so you can get a lot of different types of phasing out of it. So the positive or negative feedback is, positive feedback sends some of the same signal back, whereas negative feedback sends the inverse of the signal back. So it impacts, when it mixes with the incoming signal, it impacts the positive feedback will add to it. So like in an amplifier, it would make it get louder, whereas negative feedback, when the feedback hits, it makes it quieter. So in a lot of old tube amps, they would use negative feedback to keep them from getting too loud. So that, yeah, the depth controls the how deep the phasing is, and it's more so on the Tappa Whirl than the Tappa phase. But as you turn the depth down, some of the rhythmic patterns have a unique thing where you have accented beats and non-accented beats, and you can kind of get those non-accented beats to kind of roll off and have just your accented beats, or you can have, as you roll the depth down, you can have them all kind of in the waveform. It's actually clipping part of the LFO waveform. So if you have like a sine wave, it's also cutting off part of that sine wave and making it, more squared on one half and still sine on the other half. Well, one of my favorite things is I tell people to take a screamer fuzz and dime all the knobs on that thing and then run it into this phaser, and it just, the two interact really well together when it hits those peaks. And especially with a bass, if you vibrato a note on a bass, you can get almost a growl out of it. You can get some really cool interactions between those two pedals.